inspired this idea we had.
Yes.
I just really, we set up our show.
Yeah.
You
Here we
can
go.
see it behind us.
Yeah.
HP Lovecraft. I Lovecraft. I wanted to have audio visual for this one because
Right.
it's
Very cool. We're gonna have our books and flip through it.
Come through stuff. We're gonna be following along with each other, which I think is kind of cool. And you ordered the other one, right?
Yeah, I ordered it, so I will have a physical copy of that
Perfect.
as well.
That's I like following along. It makes my brain happy.
Hopefully, my battery doesn't die before we're satisfied and done with this. But if the battery dies, we'll just continue with audio instead.
Yeah.
And
we'll put up a little spooky image.
Yes. But we're recording this the same exact time as the other episode.
Yeah. That's why we're still sick.
We're still sick. Still sound a little yuck.
Who knows? Maybe the whole dynamic of this will change when we're not sick. It'll be a completely different show.
I don't know why we're holding this. We're
gonna talk about it.
Oh,
we're gonna talk about it. Yeah, it's gonna be a whole little like maybe 15-minute intro where we talk about it because we've texted about it. But this
I read the 7th story. It's good. It's good.
Okay. This is The King in Yellow. This inspired Lovecraft, who inspired. Well, you can't see, but I have a whole shelf of Stephen King books. Who is when me and Austin sort of rapid obsession lately. Yeah, I know exactly.
Like,
we're going back.
He inspired him, and then he.
And then if you even I don't know if you read like the footnotes or anything, but there's even stuff that inspired this. Like there's a I don't know. Okay, but anyway, this is The King in Yellow. This is a play that it's actually not a play, so I just lied to you. It's a story about a play that drives people crazy, and there's like several interconnected short stories in it that where you witness the effects of someone reading the play The King in Yellow and losing their mind and doing strange things. I think the best example is the first one. I still think the first story, what was it called? The something of reputations.
The Repair of Reputations.
I still think that's the best one.
I do too.
They are really good, but that first one just set the tone so perfectly.
I did really like the 5th story though.
The 5th one, the one with the hawks?
Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool.
I like the 4th one.
I did like that one as well.
The ending was cool. Anyway, but yeah, so, and Lovecraft really enjoyed, let me find, there was a quote from him in here somewhere. He really liked The King in Yellow, and he liked it so much, but he was disappointed that Robert Chambers only made like 4 stories that are in the canon of The King in Yellow. Here it is right here. The book was much admired by H.P. Lovecraft, who regretted that Chambers did not write more in this vein, in which he could have so easily have become a recognized master. He thinks that if Robert Chambers had written more King in Yellow stories, he could have become, like, on the level of Lovecraft.
You know what? I agree with you.
I agree too. But
that's my one complaint about this book, is that it's so short.
I know.
But, you know.
And only the first stories are technically relevant. Oh, the first 4 stories, but there's, like, some, like, theories and some maybe.
Yeah.
I think that maybe, like, after. Well, I don't want to spoil the ending very much of the 5th, but I think that maybe the girl went through something with the King in Yellow maybe after the Viper incident.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm just thinking out loud here, but there's a lot of theories. That's why I told Austin, like, this sort of book, like, I feel like it inspired a lot of the modern media we see today. The examples I used were, like, Deltarune or Gravity Falls, where it's, like, you have to take in every detail. And I feel like this sort of was the Kickstarter to that a little bit. But anyway, we're talking about this. It's not what we're reading today. We've already read it. No. But I just think it's interesting to talk about and important to to talk about where it came from.
This is what we're reading.
This is what we're reading today. The whole thing in one sitting. Let's go.
All of it.
I'm excited. All right.
It's got nice silver pages.
So we're gonna talk about this. The most classic literature you've read is probably The King in Yellow, right? Like on your own, like for pleasure.
Probably yeah. I would say so.
I don't know if you can see, but I
do want to read Sherlock Holmes at some point.
Really good. I don't know if all of Sherlock Holmes is like worth it, but like there are definitely like a lot that are like it's just fun. Like I like to read them before I go to bed because it's like a happy little mystery that put me to sleep. And I really like old writing because like you said, the point you made is really good. Like every sentence feels important.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because not that it's a bad thing with like modern stuff, but like you know you're just kind of reading and going along. You know, but with this classic stuff, you just kind of like lock in and in that way you sort of get absorbed by the story.
Right.
You know.
I agree.
And I'm pretty sure this is around that time, so I'm sure it's going to be similar.
Yeah. So this is probably going to be a bit of an inconsistent thing here because, like we said, some stories really short and then other stories pretty long. Yeah. So we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do here. Some episodes, what did you just do with your hands there?
I was just weighing my options.
Okay. All right. But anyways, some episodes might be just one story. Some will be multiple stories.
Yeah, I let me see here. Speak?
Oh.
I'm just being quiet.
Hello.
It's too late. Too late. All right, so the first few stories are only like 6. I'll probably read 2 or 3 stories today.
Yeah.
The pages are a lot long. Like there's a lot more words on the page than in the last book we read, so it might take us a bit longer.
His font is a little small.
Yeah. Got a really little up your face.
Are we reading the introduction?
I already read it. Sorry.
Oh.
But it's not scary.
Is it interesting?
Well, yeah. But it was all stuff that was in that video I watched about Lovecraft.
Okay.
So
I'll have to go back and read it on my own. I haven't read the
Yeah, I'll give you a little synopsis of Lovecraft. I think it was either his mom or his dad. I think it was his dad. Like, was put in an insane asylum when he was 5 years old.
Oh.
No, when H.P. Lovecraft was 5 years old, his dad was put in an insane asylum, and his mom like cared for him, I guess. But like, I think they had a loving relationship. But like, he went out. Then he was like a recluse. He had a very short-lived marriage that didn't like last very long, and he was a very racist man, and it was to the point where he was like terrified of people from other countries, which is apparently sometimes might be reflected in his work. But like we said in the other episode, if you listen to it, we're not gonna like censor anything or I mean we're gonna censor obviously words we're not supposed to say. But I don't know if there's any of that.
Yeah.
But we'll we're not gonna we're gonna appreciate the original text. Not necessarily to like admire the author, but to study the work.
Yes, exactly. It's from a different time,
a different era. The same thing with Sherlock Holmes, but I still think it's worth reading because I just think classic literature is fun. Yeah. The King in Yellow didn't have any of that. The King in Yellow was pretty.
It was pretty.
Thumbs up.
Good job. Good person.
Good job, Robert W. Chambers. That's a big Robert W. Chambers.
Yes. So, who's reading the first story?
What's it called?
The Beast in the Cave.
Why don't we read the introduction first?
Oh,
there's a little.
Well, but who's reading though?
I'll read it. This isn't the actual story. This is just about the story. Lovecraft wrote the first draft of this story sometime before the spring of 1904, and completed the final draft on April 21st, 1905. That's my birthday.
Oh, scary.
Crazy. He had no first-hand experience of caves, so he spent several days at Providence Public Library boning up on the study's lookout.
Oh, what?
Okay. Boning up, I see. It's like when John Lennon said something was a product of his horned upness.
Yeah, what?
That was not real John Lennon.
Not the real one. The real.
What is that, slander?
Yeah.
Slandering his name.
Defamation.
No, yeah, defecation, that's right.
What?
For the work of someone not yet 15 years old. Ooh, this tale is surprisingly effective. So he's a little young lad when he wrote this. Let's see how good it is. Let's see if he's he's gonna be like really
terrible.
He's gonna be really good, and I'm gonna be like, what am I doing? Like, my writing is not this good. Years later, however, Lovecraft would tone down some of the typographical eccentricities found towards the end of the narrative. Oh, I'm gonna see those typographical eccentricities. That sounds funny. On the manuscript, he has indicated that in forms part of the volume Tales of Terror, it's first published in Vagrant. I should also mention that like all of his stories like published in newspapers and stuff, similar to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. But he, all of his success was posthumous because he passed away before anyone really realized how much of a genius he was.
Lovecraft?
Yeah.
I hate when that happens.
And he was a miserable man. Like he was like tortured and like.
That also happened with one of the painters. I forget which one, but the one that.
Yeah, Van Gogh.
Yeah.
Unappreciated in his time.
Yeah, and he was poor and he had a terrible life, and then he died, and then everybody was like, "Man, that dude was cool."
I know.
It's like
that sucks.
That sucks.
Although I do kind of vibe with that a little bit though, because Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, like, his like the fame of Sherlock Holmes got to him so much that like ate away. Have you ever watched any video essays about it? It like ate away his life. There was he killed off Sherlock Holmes in one of the stories. Really? Just because he didn't want to write any more Sherlock Holmes stories, but everyone was like outraged, like demanded more, like his mental health declined.
Yeah, I guess that's the one good aspect.
Right, so that's like kind of the yin and yang there.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't know. All right, are we ready? Let's begin with the Beast in the Cave. Yeah, you can go.
Oh, I'm reading.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right.
Your voice is worse than mine anyway at raspiness level. So.
Is that a good thing?
I don't know. We'll find out.
The horrible conclusion, which had been gradually obtruding itself upon my confused and reluctant mind, was now an awful certainty. I feel like at 15, I didn't even know what any of those words meant.
That sentence goes so hard. I'm so excited.
I was lost, completely, hopelessly lost in the vast and labyrinthine recesses of the Mammoth Cave. Turn as I might, in no direction could my straining vision seize on any object capable of serving as a guidepost to set me on the outward path. That never more should I behold the blessed light of day, or scan the pleasant hills and dales of my beautiful world outside. My reason could no longer entertain the slightest unbelief. Hope had departed. Yet, indoctrinated as I was by a life of philosophical study, I derived no small measure of satisfaction from my unimpassioned demeanor. For although I had frequently read of the wild frenzies into which were thrown the victims of similar situations, I experienced none of these, but stood quiet as soon as I clearly realized the loss of my bearings.
I love old writing so much. So flowery.
Nor did the thought that I had probably wandered beyond the utmost limits of an ordinary search cause me to abandon my composure even for a moment. If I must die, I reflected, then was this terrible yet majestic cavern as welcome a sepulture
I don't know that word.
as that which any churchyard might afford, a conception which carried with it more of tranquility than of despair. Starving would prove my ultimate fate. Of this I was certain. Some, I knew, had gone mad under circumstances such as these, but I felt that this end would not be mine. My disaster was the result of no fault save my own, since unbeknown to the guide I had separated myself from the regular party of sightseers, and, wandering for over an hour in forbidden avenues of the cave, had found myself unable to retrace the devious windings which I had pursued since forsaking my companions.
Always stick with the group.
Yes.
This is a PSA.
Why would he do this?
Why would you do this?
Already my torch had begun to expire. Soon I would be enveloped by the total and almost palpable blackness of the bowels of the earth. As I stood in the waning, unsteady light, I idly wondered over the exact circumstances of my coming end.
I'm going to start saying that, so I'm thinking about my death.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I remembered the accounts which I had heard of the colony of consumptives who, taking their residence in this gigantic grotto to find health from the apparently salubrious air of the underground world, with its steady, uniform temperature, pure air, and peaceful quiet, had found instead death in strange and ghastly form. I had seen the sad remains of their ill-made cottages as I passed them by with the party, and had wondered what unnatural influence a long sojourn in this immense and silent cavern would exert upon one as healthy and as vigorous as I.
Oh, sure. Very self-aggrandizing.
Yes. Now, I grimly told myself, my opportunity for settling this point had arrived, provided that want of food should not bring me too speedy a departure from this life. I just want to say, no bashing against the other story that we just read or anything, but going from that to this is...
That's what I like. It's
wow.
You
get the best of both worlds.
And it's also like this feels more like we're learning.
Exactly.
We're learning.
A lot of words I don't even know what's going on there.
Aww.
As the last fitful rays of my torch faded into obscurity, I resolved to leave no stone unturned, no possible means of escape neglected. So summoning all the powers possessed by my lungs, I set up a series of loud shoutings, in the vain hope of attracting the attention of the guide by my clamor. Yet as I called, I believed in the heart that my cries were to no purpose, and that my voice, magnified and reflected by the numberless ramparts of the black maze about me, fell upon no ears save my own. All at once, however, my attention was fixed with a start as I fancied that I heard the sound of soft approaching steps on the rocky floor of the cavern. Was my deliverance about to be accomplished so soon? Had, then, all my horrible apprehensions been for naught? And was the guide, having marked my unwarranted absence from the party, following my course and seeking me out in this limestone labyrinth? Whilst these joyful queries arose in my brain,
some sarcasm there.
Yeah, I was on the point of renewing my cries, in order that my discovery might come the sooner, when in an instant my delight was turned to horror as I listened, for my ever-acute ear, now sharpened in even greater degree by the complete silence of the cave, bore to my benumbed understanding the unexpected and dreadful knowledge that these footfalls were not like those of any mortal man.
Oh no. Just like the other story we were reading.
I know, it's
creepy.
In the unearthly stillness of the subterranean region, the tread of the booted guide would have sounded like a series of sharp and incisive blows. These impacts were soft and stealthy, as of the padded paws of some feline. Besides, at times, when I listened carefully, I seemed to trace the falls of 4 instead of 2 feet.
This is so cute. This is like a cute little old story about scary stuff.
I was now convinced that I had, by my cries, aroused and attracted some wild beast, perhaps a mountain lion which had accidentally strayed within the cave. Perhaps I considered the Almighty had chosen me for a swifter and more merciful death than that of hunger. Yet the instinct of self-preservation, never wholly dormant, was stirred in my breast, and though escape from the oncoming peril might but spare me for a sterner and more lingering end, I determined, nevertheless, to part with my life at as high a price I could command. Strange as it may seem, my mind conceived of no intent on the part of the visitors save that of hostility. Accordingly, I became very quiet, in the hope that the unknown beast would, in the absence of a guiding sound, lose its direction as had I, and thus pass me by. But this hope was not destined for realization, for the strange footfall steadily advanced, and the animal, evidently having obtained my scent, which in an atmosphere so absolutely free from all distracting influences as is that of the cave, could doubtless be followed by at great distance.
We're about to reread this to fall asleep tonight. Just
it's very cozy and
I told
but
you.
Also creepy.
I love this kind of stuff, dude.
Seeing therefore that I must be armed for defiance against an uncanny and unseen attack in the dark, I groped about me the largest of the fragments of rock which were strewn upon all parts of the floor. I know, of the cavern in the vicinity, and grasping one in each hand for immediate use, awaited with resignation the inevitable result. Yes, I'm always inevitable. Whatever he says.
I'm always inevitable.
Meanwhile, the hideous pattering of the paws drew near. Certainly, the conduct of the creature was exceedingly strange. Most of the time, the tread seemed to be that of a quadruped. Quadruped.
Four-legged.
Yes, exactly. Walking with a singular lack of unison betwixt hind and 4 feet.
4 feet?
Oh.
Yeah, I'm kidding. I don't know what that means.
Yet, at brief and infrequent intervals, I fancied that but 2 feet were engaged in the process of locomotion. Choo-choo. I wonder what species of animal was to confront me. It must, I thought, be some unfortunate beast who had paid for its curiosity to investigate one of the entrances of the fearful grotto with a lifelong confinement in its innermost recesses. It doubtless obtained as food the eyeless fish, bats, and rats of the cave, as well as some of the ordinary fish that are wafted in at every freshet of the green river, which communicates in some occult manner with the waters of the cave. I occupied my terrible vigil with grotesque conjectures of what alterations cave life might have wrought in the physical structure of the beast, remembering the awful appearances ascribed by local tradition to the consumptives who had died after long residence in the cavern. Then I remembered with a start that, even should I succeed in killing my antagonist, I should never behold its form, as my torch had long since been extinct, and I was entirely unprovided with matches.
He's never gonna get to see what it looks like.
This is not a good situation.
That's bad.
The tension on my brain now became frightful. My disordered fancy conjured up hideous and fearsome shapes from the sinister darkness that surrounded me, and that eventually seemed to press upon my body. Nearer, the dreadful footfalls approached. It seemed that I must give vent to a piercing scream. Yet had I been sufficiently irresolute to attempt such a thing, my voice could scarce have responded. Man, my voice is scarce to respond.
Yeah, okay, I'll pick up the next ones, because I want to read this so bad.
I was petrified, rooted to the spot. I doubted if my right arm would allow me to hurl its missile at the oncoming thing when the crucial moment should arrive. Now the steady pat-pat of the steps was close at hand. Now, very close. I could hear the labored breathing of the animal, and terror-struck as I was, I realized that it must have come from a considerable distance and was correspondingly fatigued. Suddenly the spell broke. My right hand, guided by my ever trustworthy sense of hearing, threw with full force the sharp-angled bit of limestone which it contained toward that point in the darkness from which emanated the breathing and pattering, and, wonderful to relate, it nearly reached its goal, for I heard the thing jump, landing at a distance away, where it seemed to pause.
Maybe he lives up to how much he's talking about how cool he is.
Maybe
he actually is that cool.
Yeah. Having readjusted my aim, I discharged my second missile, this time most effectively, for with a flood of joy I listened to the creature fell in what sounded like a complete collapse.
Huh.
It evidently remained prone and unmoving. Almost overpowered by the great relief which rushed over me, I reeled back against the wall. The breathing continued in heavy, gasping inhalations and expirations, whence I realized that I had no more than wounded the creature, and now all desire to examine the thing ceased. At last something allied to groundless, superstitious fear had entered my brain, and I did not approach the body, nor did I continue to cast stones in order to complete the extinction of its life. Instead, I ran at full speed in what was, as nearly as I could estimate my frenzied condition, the direction from which I had come. Suddenly I heard a sound, or rather, a regular succession of sounds.
Oh.
In another instant they had resolved themselves into a series of sharp, metallic clicks. This time there was no doubt. It was the guide.
Oh, good.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I shouted, yelled, screamed, even shrieked with joy as I beheld in the vaulted 8 arches above the faint and glimmering effulgence, which I knew to be the reflected light of an approaching torch. I ran to meet the flare, and before I could completely understand what had occurred, was lying upon the ground at the feet of the guide, embracing his boots and gibbering despite my boasted reserve.
Wait, what were you? Gibber.
Yeah, gibber.
That's right.
Whenever I'm cold, I say gibber.
I know. I'm gonna remember that forever and ever.
In a most meaningless and idiotic manner, pouring out my terrible story, and at the same time overwhelming my auditor with protestations of gratitude. At length I woke to something like my normal consciousness. The guide had noted my absence upon the arrival of the party at the entrance of the cave, and had, from his own intuitive sense of direction, proceeded to make a thorough canvass of the by-passengers just ahead of where we had last spoken to me, locating my whereabouts after a quest of about 4 hours. Man, what a dedicated guy.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
By the time he had related this to me, I emboldened by his torch, and his company began to reflect upon the strange beast which I had wounded but a short distance back in the darkness, and suggested that was certain, by the rush light's aid, what manner of creature was my victim. Accordingly, I retraced my steps, this time with a courage born of companionship, and a sense of my terrible experience. Soon we described a white object upon the floor, an object wider even than the gleaming limestone itself. Cautiously advancing, we gave vent to a simultaneous ejaculation of wonderment.
It's an old word.
Yep.
They use that in Sherlock Holmes all the time.
Yeah.
Just like,
For of all the unnatural monsters either of us had in our lifetimes beheld, this was in surpassing degree the strangest. It appeared to be an anthropoid ape of large proportions.
Guys, this is the first Lovecraft monster.
Yes.
Log it.
Escaped perhaps from some itinerant menagerie.
Okay.
Its hair was snow white, a thing that due no doubt to the bleaching action of a long existence within the inky confines of the cave. But it was also surprisingly thin, being indeed largely absent save on the head, where it was of such length and abundance that it fell over the shoulders in considerable profusion. The face was turned away from us, as the creature lay almost directly upon it. The inclination of the limbs was very singular, explaining, however, the alteration in their use which I had before noted, whereby the beast used sometimes all 4, and on other occasions but 2 for its progress. From the tips of the fingers or toes, long nail-like claws extended. The hands or feet were not prehensile, a fact that I ascribed to the long residence in the cave, which, as I before mentioned, seemed evident from the all-pervading and almost unearthly whiteness so characteristic of the whole anatomy. No tail seemed to be present.
Alright, I'm remembering all this. I'm imagining it in my head.
The respiration had now grown very feeble, and the guide had drawn his pistol with the evident intent of dispatching the creature when a sudden sound emitted by the latter caused the weapon to fall unused. Not used. Jerk.
Yeah.
The sound was of a nature difficult to describe. It was not like the normal note of any known species of simian, and I wondered if the unnatural quality were not the result of a long-continued and complete silence, broken by the sensations produced by the advent of the light, a thing which the beast could not have seen since its first entrance into the cave. The sound, which I might feebly attempt to classify as a kind of deep-toned chattering, was faintly continued. All at once a fleeting spasm of energy seemed to pass through the frame of the beast. The paws went through a convulsive motion, and the limbs contracted. With a jerk, the white body rolled over so that its face was turned in our direction. For a moment I was so struck with horror at the eyes thus revealed that I noticed nothing else. They were black, those eyes, deep, jetty black, in hideous contrast to the snow-white hair and flesh. Excuse me.
You're good.
Like those of other cave denizens, they were deeply sunken in their orbits and were entirely destitute of iris. As I looked more closely, I saw that they were set in a face less prognathous than that of the average ape, and infinitely more hairy. The nose was quite distinct. Okay, thanks for that.
He really likes looking at this creature.
Yeah. As we gazed upon the uncanny sight presented to our vision, the thick lips opened and several sounds issued from them, after which the thing relaxed.
Oh, that's probably, they said the eccentric, what do they say, like the weird way they wrote words. He's like italicizing random words.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
I like that.
The guide clutched my coat sleeve and trembled so violently that the light shook fitfully, casting weird, moving shadows on the walls about us. I made no motion, but stood rigidly still, and for horrified eyes fixed upon the floor ahead. Then fear left, and wonder, awe. Then fear left, and wonder, awe, compassion, reverence succeeded in its place, for the sounds uttered by the stricken figure that lay stretched out on the limestone had told us the awesome truth. The creature I had killed, the strange beast of the unfathomed cave was, or had at one time been, a man.
Yeah. he has emboldened and placed 3 exclamation marks after the word man.
Wow. Just to emphasize it.
You really make it, really hammer it home.
And that was the first story.
If that is the worst story, then I think we're in for a good time.
Is it the worst story?
I don't know, but I'm saying if it is. Because I was just super fun and like silly and I don't know.
It's pretty simple, but
pretty simple. I like it.
It's pretty cool.
You know, it's interesting to me when it's like those old like stories like this, like they're trying to think of like what does the human mind fear the most? You know, like that kind of. I don't know that I would ever see a creature like that nowadays. I feel like they have to go really above and beyond with their like, which I'm sure he's going to, but like I don't know, just like the idea of like way back in those days, a scary monkey man is enough to like terrify somebody. I don't know. Pretty interesting. This one's good. This was kind of short too. I'll grab this one since your voice is.
Yeah, my voice is.
And I really want to read.
You know, I need to get to water.
I really want to read. When can you grab mine too?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Which one was which? Like,
I know which one it is. This one's mine.
That one's yours?
Yep.
Are you 100% sure?
I'm 100% sure.
Okay.
Alright.
Okay.
What's this one called?
The Alchemist, and I just noticed something interesting. I'm going to read the introduction. The Alchemist was written in 1908, presumably prior to Lovecraft's abrupt withdrawal from high school in June. So we're going to kind of go through his life with this too. It's kind of fun. It portrays the influence of Poe and earlier writers of Gothic fiction and its use of a European setting, the anonymity of the protagonist's family, the Comtesse de C. Does that look familiar to you?
The King Yellow.
The priest, yeah. Mm-hmm. He also had like his last name censored or something.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a subtle nod.
Maybe.
And the idea of a familial curse that endures for centuries. Maybe you shouldn't read these. This is spoiling stuff.
Yeah.
Poe's influence can also be felt in the first-person narrator's obsessive interest in his own psychological state. Lovecraft put the theme of alchemy to much better use in the short novel The Case of Charles Dexter Ward. It was first published in the United Amateur. Okay, this is The Alchemist.
Ready.
I'm sorry, this is the second story he's written, I guess. High up, crowning the grassy summit of a swelling mound whose sides were wooded near the base with the gnarled trees of the primeval forest, stands the old chateau of my ancestors. For centuries, its lofty battlements have frowned down upon the wild and rugged countryside about, serving as a home and stronghold for he proud house, whose honored line is older even than the moss-grown castle walls. These ancient turrets, stained by the storms of generations and crumbling under the slow yet mighty pressure of time, formed in the ages of feudalism one of the most dreaded and formidable fortresses in all of France. I don't know this one. I'm not even going to try. From its parapets and mounted battlements, barons, counts, and even kings had been defied, yet never had its spacious halls resounded to the footsteps of the invader. By the way, just quick side note, I am going to look up all the words I don't know after this, so that when I reread these later, I'll know them.
Yes.
There you go. That's what I do with when I'm reading now.
I always do that when I'm reading. If I unless it's something like this, if I don't know a word, I look it up.
Gotta look it up. Because you'll learn a little something along the way.
Yeah.
But since these glorious years all has changed, a poverty but little above the level of dire want, together with a pride of name that forbids its alleviation by the pursuits of commercial life, have prevented the scions of our line from maintaining their estates in pristine splendor, and the falling stones of he walls. Why do I keep saying he walls? I don't know. Maybe that's just an old thing. The overgrown vegetation in the parks, the dry and dusty moat, the ill-paved courtyards, and toppling towers without, as well as the sagging floors, the worm-eaten wainscots, and the faded tapestries within, all tell a gloomy tale of fallen grandeur. As the ages passed, first one, then another of 4 great turrets were left to ruin, until at last but a single tower housed the sadly reduced descendants of the once mighty lords of the estate. It was in one of the vast and gloomy chambers of this remaining tower that Antoine, last of the unhappy and accursed Comets de C, first saw the light of day 90 long years ago. He's 90 years old?
Whoa.
He's an old guy.
Yeah.
Within these walls and amongst the dark and shadowy forests, the wild ravines and grottos of the hillside below were spent the first years of my troubled life.
Sounds like he's on his deathbed writing this.
Yeah. Oh, maybe. Yeah. Maybe this is like his final He's telling a secret. He's telling a secret that he never told. My parents I never knew. My father had been killed at the age of 32, a month before I was born, by the fall of a stone somehow dislodged from one of the deserted pyramids of the castle. My mother having died at birth. What? My mother having died at birth. At his birth.
Yeah, his birth.
That doesn't make any sense.
She died at birth.
That's kind of odd. My care and education devolves solely upon one remaining servitor, an old and trusted man of considerable intelligence, whose name I remember as Pierre. Pierre Lafont.
Who's that?
From Dan Henschel.
Oh.
I was an only child, and the lack of companionship which this fact entailed upon me was augmented by the strange care exercised by my aged guardian, and excluding me from the society of the peasant children, whose abodes were scattered here and there upon the plains that surrounded the base of the hill. At the time, Pierre said this restriction was imposed upon me because my noble birth placed me above association with such plebeian company.
Plebeian.
I love that word.
Yeah.
Now I know that its real object was to keep from my ears the idle tales of dread curse upon our line, that were nightly told and magnified by the simple tenantry as they conversed in hushed accents in the glow of their cottage hut. I forgot this was a horror story for a second.
Yeah.
I just got a little excited.
Isn't it like? Don't you feel more exhausted reading this than it's like you're training your muscles. You're a little bit reading muscles compared to what we just read, which was
they're all up here, guys.
Yeah,
reading more classic literature.
This is interesting. I'm into this.
Me too. I want to know about the secrets. Thus isolated and thrown upon my own resources, I spent the hours of my childhood in poring over the ancient tomes that filled the shadow-haunted library of the chateau, and in roaming without aim or purpose to the perpetual dusk of the spectral wood that clothes the side of the hill near its foot. Every now and then I just read a sentence and it's like orgasmic. It's like so good.
Yeah.
It was perhaps an effect of such surroundings that my mind early acquired a shade of melancholy. Those studies and pursuits which partake of the dark and occult in nature most strongly claimed my attention. Of my own race, I was permitted to learn singularly little, yet what small knowledge of it I was able to gain seemed to depress me much. Perhaps it was at first only the manifest reluctance of my old preceptor to discuss with me my parental ancestry that gave rise to the terror which I ever felt at the mention of my great house. Yet as I grew out of childhood, I was able to piece together disconnected fragments of discourse, let slip from the unwilling tongue which had begun to falter at approaching senility, like going senile. I had a sort of relation to a certain circumstance which I had always deemed strange, but which now became dimly terrible. The circumstance to which I allude is the early age at which all the comments of my line had met their end, whilst I had hitherto considered this but a natural attribute of a family of short-lived men. I afterward pondered long upon these premature deaths and began to connect them with the wanderings of the old man, who often spoke of a curse for each century has prevented the lives of the holders of my title from much exceeding the span of 32 years. When did his dad die? 32. Maybe that's the latest one of them ever lasted.
Yeah. Well, the death back then was probably...
But he's 90.
That's true.
So he... with the curse, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll find out. Upon my 21st birthday, the aged Pierre gave to me a family document which he had said had for many generations been handed down from father to son, and continued by each possessor. Its contents were of the most startling nature, and its perusal confirmed the gravest of my apprehensions. At this time, my belief in the supernatural was firm and deep-seated, else I should have been dismissed with scorn the incredible narrative unfolded before my eyes.
Imagine your, freaking dad dies, and then you get this cursed artifact as, it's already bad enough that your parents dead, but now you're cursed for the rest of your life.
Thanks, Pierre.
Yeah.
It's always the French, though. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. That was a Hunter joke right there.
Yeah, it was.
I shouldn't have said that.
I bet he's laughing right now.
No, yeah, I don't particularly have any feelings negative towards the French, but whatever. The paper carried me back to the days of the 13th century, when the old castle in which I sat had been a feared and impregnable fortress. It told of a certain ancient man who had once dwelt in our states, a person of no small accomplishments, though little above the rank of a peasant. By name, Michael, I guess, usually designated by the surname of Malvis the Evil, on account of his sinister reputation.
Malvis the Evil.
He had studied beyond the custom of his kind, seeking such things as the Philosopher's Stone.
J.K. Rowling, you liar, you stealer.
No, I knew that was a thing before. Art imitates art, or steals from.
Exactly.
Or the elixir of eternal life, and was reputed wise in the terrible secrets of black magic and alchemy. Michael Malvis had one son named Charles, a youth as proficient as himself in the hidden arts, who had therefore been called the sorcerer, or wizard. This is kind of more of a fantasy, I believe. This pair, shunned by all honest folk, were suspected of the most hideous practices. His name is Malvis the Evil. Old Michael was said to have burnt his wife alive as a sacrifice to the devil, and the unaccountable disappearances of many small peasant children were laid at the dreaded door of these two. Yet through the dark natures of the father and the son ran one redeeming ray of humanity. The evil old man loved his offspring with fierce intensity, whilst the youth had for his parent a more than... I'm gonna look that one up because I want to know.
Filial.
Yeah, what does he mean? I need to know what that word means. That's important to the story.
Yeah.
Siri, what does the word filial mean? F-I-L-I-A-L? Ooh.
What?
Not phallus.
Oh, that's a much
She
different
misheard
word.
me.
Oh, no.
Hold on. Phil. Sorry, I don't mean to break the. I need to know this. How does he feel about his parents? Oh, he just feels like he's. That's his parent.
Great. So it's just a word to make things more complicated.
He feels a familial bond. Latin root word, family, familial, whatever. Familial. One night, the castle on the hill was thrown into the wildest confusion by the vashment of young Godfrey, son to Hurley the Comet. I'm just gonna say that comet from now on. That's cool. A searching party headed by the frantic father invaded the cottage of the sorcerers, and there came upon old Michael Magus, busy over a huge and violently boiling cauldron. He's so evil.
He's so evil.
He's so evil, dude. Without certain cause, in the ungoverned madness of fury and despair, the comet laid hands on the aged wizard, and ere he released his murderous hold, his victim was no more. Meanwhile, joyful servants were proclaiming the finding of young Godfrey in a distant, unused chamber of the great edifice, telling too late that poor Michael had been killed in vain. As the comet and his associates turned away from the lowly abode of the alchemists, the form of Charles the Sorcier appeared through the trees. The excited chatter of the menials standing about told him what had occurred, yet he seemed at first unmoved at his father's fate. Then, slowly advancing to meet Comet, he pronounced in the dull yet terrible accents the curse that ever haunted afterwards the House of C. May ne'er and noble of thy murderous line survive to reach a greater age than thine. Oh, because he died at 32.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good. Spake he. Always forget that there's a past tense version of the word spoke, which is spake. From
spank.
Yeah, that's probably why they changed it.
Yeah.
Spake he, when suddenly, leading backwards into the black wood, he drew from his tunic a phial of colorless liquid, which he threw into the face of his father's slayer as he disappeared behind the inky curtain of night. That's like the third time night's been described as inky in this session. The comet died without utterance and was buried the next day, but little more than 2 and 30 years from the hour of his birth. No trace of the assassin could be found, though relentless bands of peasants scoured the neighboring woods and the meadowland around the hill. Thus time and the want of reminder dulled the memory of the curse in the minds of the late comet's family, so that when Godfrey, innocent cause of the whole tragedy and now bearing the title, was killed by an arrow was hunting at the age of 32. There were no thoughts save those of grief at his demise, but when years afterward the next young comet, Robert by name, Robert W. Chambers, was found dead in the nearby field for no apparent cause, the peasants told in whispers that their seigneur had but lately passed his 32nd birthday, when, surprised by early death, Lewis, son of Robert, was found drowned in the moat of the same fateful age, and thus down through the centuries ran the ominous chronicle. Henrys, Roberts, Antoines, and Armads snatched from happy and virtuous lives when little below the age of an unfortunate ancestor at his murder. I'm starting to think they die at 32. Then I left at most but 11 years of further existence was made certain to me by the words which I had read. My life, previously held at small value, now became dearer to me each day, as I delved deeper and deeper into the mysteries of the hidden world of black magic. Isolated as I was, modern science had produced no impression upon me. As I labored in the Middle Ages, as rapt as had been old Michael and young Charles themselves in the acquisition of demonological and alchemical learning, yet read as I might, in no manner could I account for the strange curse upon my line. In unusually rational moments, I would even go so far as to seek a natural explanation, attributing the early deaths of my ancestors to the sinister Charles the Sorcier and his heirs. Yet having found upon careful inquiry that there were no known descendants of the alchemists, I would fall back to occult studies, and once more endeavor to find a spell that would release my house from its terrible burden. Upon one thing I was absolutely resolved. I should never wed, for since there were no other branches of my family were in existence, I might thus end the curse of myself. It's very big of him. It's very, very humble. As I drew near the age of 30, old Pierre was called to the land beyond. Alone, I buried him beneath the stones of the courtyard about which he had loved to wander in life. Thus was I left to ponder on myself as the only creature within the great fortress, and in my utter solitude my mind began to cease its vain protest against the impending doom, to become almost reconciled to the fate which so many of the ancestors had met. Much of my time was now occupied in exploration of the ruined and abandoned halls and towers of the old chateau, which in youth fear had caused me to shun, and some of which old Pierre once told me had not been trodden by human foot for over 4 centuries. Oh, year 4, well. Strange and awesome were many of the objects I encountered. Furniture covered with dust of ages and crumbling with a rot of long dampness met my eyes. Cobwebs in a profusion never before seen by me were spun everywhere, and huge bats flapped their bony and uncanny wings in all sides of otherwise untanned and blue. Have you ever seen a bat?
Yeah. I
walked home one time from vacation and there was a bat dead in my sink.
What? How'd it get there?
No one knows.
I've never seen one in person, but...
Well, I never shook hands with any.
Other than the zoo, but...
Oh, that's true. I didn't even go to the bats exhibit in the zoo. It seems scary.
Yeah.
Of my exact age, even down to days and hours, I kept the most careful record for each movement of the pendulum of the massive clock in the library told off so much more of my doomed existence. Well, imagine just living knowing that you're going to die.
Yeah.
This is psychological, like the said.
At
length, I approached that time which I had so long viewed with apprehension. Since most of my ancestors had been seized some little while before they reached the exact age of Combat Henrietta's end, I was every moment on the watch for the coming of the unknown death. In what strange form the curse should overtake me, I knew not, but I was resolved, at least, that it should not find me as cowardly or a passive victim. With new vigor, I applied myself to an examination of the old chateau and its contents. Would you kill yourself?
You know, well, I've been faced with that question many times.
Really?
Where
like
it's
if you knew you were gonna die, would you?
And I always come back to the same thing where, obviously, I've said before, like, I am so scared of death.
I know.
I think even if death was the best outcome, I don't think I would have the resolve to actually do that.
See. Yeah.
I don't think I could go through with it.
No.
Would you?
I don't know, man. I honestly don't know what I'd do in, like, really intense situations, because I've never really been in any, but, like,
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I'll learn someday. But it's interesting. It's an interesting question. It was upon one of the longest of all my excursions of discovery in the deserted portion of the castle, less than a week before that fatal hour which I must mark the utmost limit of my stay on earth, beyond which I could not have even the slightest hope of continuing to draw breath, that I came upon the culminating event of my whole life. Oh, wow. I had spent the better part of the morning in climbing up and down half-ruined staircases in one of the most dilapidated of the ancient turrets. As the afternoon progressed, I sought the lower levels, descending into what appeared to be either a medieval place of confinement or a more recently excavated storehouse for gunpowder. As I slowly traversed the nitrate-encrusted passageway at the foot of the last staircase, the paving became very damp, and soon I saw by the light of my flickering torch that a blank, water-stained wall impeded my journey. Turning to retrace my steps, my eye fell on a small trapdoor with a ring, which lay directly beneath my feet. Pausing, I succeeded with difficulty in raising it, whereupon there was revealed a black aperture, exhaling noxious fumes, which caused my torch to sputter, and disclosing in the unsteady glare at the top of a flight of stone steps. As soon as the torch which I lowered into the repellent depths burned freely and steadily, I commenced my descent. The steps were many and led to a narrow stone-flagged passage which I knew must be far underground. The passage proved of great length and terminated in a massive oaken door, dripping with the moisture of the place, and stoutly resisting all my attempts to open it. Ceasing after a time my efforts in this direction, I had proceeded back some distance toward the steps, where there suddenly fell to my experience one of the most profound and maddening shocks capable of reception by the human mind. What is it?
Yeah.
Without warning, I heard the heavy door behind me creak slowly open upon its rusted hinges.
No.
Oh no. It's Pierre, dude.
Is it?
He said, oui, I'm coming back. My immediate sensations are incapable of analysis. To be confronted in a place as thoroughly deserted as I deemed the old castle with evidence of the presence of man or spirit, produced in my brain a horror of the most acute description. Lovecraft doesn't need auto-tune.
Nope.
When at last I tuned and faced the seat of my sound, my eyes must have started from their orbits at the sight that they beheld. There, in an ancient Gothic doorway, stood a human figure. It was that of a man clad in a skull cap and a long medieval tunic of dark color. His long hair and flowing beard were of a terrible and intense black hue, and of incredible profusion. His forehead high beyond the usual dimensions, his cheeks deep sunken and heavily lined with wrinkles, and his hands, long, claw-like, and gnarled, were of such a deathly marble-like witness that I have never elsewhere seen in a man. I didn't think there was going to be a monster in this one, so I'm very pleased. His figure, leaned to the proportions of a skeleton, was strangely bent and almost lost within the voluminous folds of his peculiar garment. He's like, I feel like that's a pretty like classic, like creepy guy.
It is, yeah. Well, I mean, this is the classic creepy guy writers.
This is the original creepy guy. But strangest of all were his eyes, twin caves of abysmal blackness, profound in expression of understanding, yet inhuman in degree of wickedness. That's a good sentence.
That's a banger.
That's a banger right there. These were now fixed upon me, piercing my soul with their hatred and rooting me to the spot whereon I stood. At last the figure spoke in a rumbling voice that choked me through the stolid hollowness and latent malevolence. The language in which the discourse was clothed was that debased form of Latin in use amongst the more learned men of the Middle Ages, and made familiar to me by prolonged researches into the works of old alchemists and demonologists. The apparition spoke of the curse which had hovered over my house, told me of my coming end, dwelt on the wrong perpetuated by my ancestor against old Michael Bovis, and gloated over the revenge of Charles the Sorcier. He told how the young Charles had escaped to the night, returning in after years to kill Godfrey the heir with an arrow. He was.
Yeah.
He did that. It wasn't a curse.
What?
He was just being mean.
No.
He killed Godfrey with an arrow just as he approached the age which had been his father's at his assassination. How he had secretly returned to the estate and established himself, unknown, in the even then deserted subterranean chamber, whose doorway now framed the hideous narrator. How he had seized Robert, son of Godfrey, in the field, forced poison down his throat, and left him to die at the age of 32, thus maintaining the foul provisions of his vengeful curse.
Dang.
What an evil guy, dude. Why would he say all this?
Right.
Because he's about to kill him.
Yeah, it's his evil plan.
I actually did not see that coming.
I didn't either.
That's pretty cool.
That was a cool twist.
Yeah. At this point, I was left to imagine the solution of the greatest mystery of all. How the curse been fulfilled since that time when Charles the Sorcerer must in the course of nature have died. For the man disgraced into account of the deep alchemical studies of two wizards, father and son, speaking most particularly of the researches of Charles the Sorcerer concerning the elixir which should grant to him who partook of it eternal life and youth. Remember? Philosopher's Stone.
Right.
Elixir. Yeah, okay, that's right, he's still alive. His enthusiasm had seemed for the moment to remove from his terrible eyes the hatred that had at first so haunted them. But suddenly the fiendish glare returned, and with the shocking sound of the hissing of a serpent, the stranger raised a glass phial with the evident intent of ending my life as had Charles the Sorcerer 600 years before ended that of my ancestor. Prompted by some preserving instinct of self-defense, I broke through the spell that had hitherto held me immovable, and flung my now dying torch at the creature who menaced my existence. I heard the phial break harmlessly against the stones of the passage, and the tunic of the strange man caught fire and lit the horrid sea with a ghastly radiance.
No.
The shriek of fright and a potent malice emitted by the windy assassin proved too much for my already shaken nerves, and I fell prone upon the slimy floor in total sleep. So random adjective.
Yeah.
Slimy and gross. When at last my senses returned, all was frightfully dark, and my mind, remembering what had occurred, shrank from the idea of beholding more. Yet curiosity overmastered all. Who, I asked myself, was this man of evil, and how came he within the castle walls? Why should he seek to avenge the death of poor Malcolm Wallace? And how had the curse been carried on through all the long centuries at the time of Charles the Sorcerer? Wow, he really has no faith in the reader to figure that out. That's interesting. I thought that was pretty clear. The dread of years was lifted from my shoulders, for I knew that he who I had felled was the source of all my danger from the sinister thing which had haunted my life for centuries. Wait, whoops, I did a weird thing.
Some, I think.
I'm gonna go back. He whom I had felled was the source of all my danger from the curse, and now that I was free, I burned with the desire to learn more of the sinister thing which had haunted my life for centuries. It made of my own youth one long, continued nightmare. Determined upon further exploration, I felt in my pockets for flint and steel. And steel! And with the unused torch which I had helped me. First of all, the new light revealed the distorted and blackened form of the mysterious stranger. The hideous eyes were now closed. Disliking the sight, I turned away and entered the chamber beyond the Gothic door. Here I found what seemed to be an alchemist's laboratory. In one corner was an immense pile of a shining yellow metal that sparkled gorgeously in the light of the torch. It may have been gold, but I did not pause to examine it, for I was strangely affected by that which I had undergone. At the farther end of the apartment was an opening leading out to one of the many wild ravines of the dark hillside forest. Filled with wonder, yet now realizing how the man had obtained access to the chateau, I proceeded to return. I had intended to pass by the remains of the stranger with averted face, but as I approached the body, I seemed to hear emanating from it a faint sound, as though life were not yet wholly extinct, getting deja vu to the story we just read. Aghast, I turned to examine the charred and shriveled figure on the floor. Then all at once the horrible eyes, blacker than the seared face in which they were set, opened wide with an expression which I was unable to interpret. The cracked lips tried to frame words which I could not well understand. Once I caught the name of Charles the Sorcerer, and again I fancied that the words years and curse issued from the twisted mouth. Still I was at a loss to gather the purport of his disconnected speech. And my evident ignorance of his meaning, the pitchy eyes once more flashed malevolently at me, until, helpless as I saw my opponent to be, I trembled as I watched him. Suddenly the wretch, animated with his last burst of strength, raised his hideous head from the damp and sunken pavement. Then as I remained paralyzed with fear, he found his voice in his dying breath, screamed forth those words which had ever afterward haunted my days and nights. Fool! He shrieked. This is the first dialogue. Can you not guess my secret? Have you no brain whereby you may recognize the will which has 6 long centuries fulfilled the dreadful curse upon your house? Have I not told you of the great elixir of eternal life? Know you not how the secret of alchemy was solved? I tell you it is I, that have lived for 600 years to pursue my revenge. For I am Charles the Sorcerer.
Ooh.
Pretty cool.
That was the Alchemist.
I think that was even better than the first one.
That was way better.
I like the mystery. I like the twist. The last 2 pages, don't know if they were necessary because I figured it out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But
so it wasn't a curse at all. It was him.
It was that
just murdering people.
I hate that guy.
What an a-hole.
A-hole. You can swear.
Oh yeah.
Asshole. Asshole.
Yeah.
Why'd you say like that?
I don't know.
I like Charles the Sorcerer. I think that I consider to be in the H.P. Lovecraft like fighting
villain
game.
catalog.
Oh, yeah.
That too.
I'm thinking of like a Smash Bros. Style game with all the but like I don't think Charles the Sorcerer is gonna be able to go against like a Cthulhu or something.
No, he'd be cooked.
He'd be cooked.
He's just
that'd be crazy. Like this is like you're playing as a little human against like a giant eldritch god.
Yeah.
Eldritch. Where does that term come from?
Eldritch horror.
Well, yeah, but like.
Is it an actual like? Did somebody come up with that?
Or is that like? I'm thinking is Eldritch like maybe another guy like Lovecraft who wrote stories like this?
Maybe. What time are we at?
50 minutes. Wow. Really? It's been that long?
Dang.
This one I'm so into.
I know.
You know? How long is the Tom?
The Tom. It's a little. I mean, it's not long, but my voice is like dying.
It is a little longer. 9 pages. What do you think? Are those 2 good enough?
I think so.
You think so?
That was a pretty good intro.
A little, yeah. Well, the future ones will be longer because we'll probably be more energized.
Right.
You know, this is actually that kind of worked out because it's just this little.
Yeah. So there you go.
Snippety snappers.
Yeah. And these will both come out at the same time, so,
so
you'll get 2 hours worth of content.
Yeah. Pretty much, unless you edit out the. Or the fire.
Yeah. Well, you know.
But
I'm very into it so far.
I love it.
It's great.
I love old writing.
And even though I was talking about how going from the other story to this is,
jarring.
I'm very into both of the stories that we've read so far.
I know. I think it's a good contrast.
I like that. Although this is like short stories, I like that this is kind of like a journey. Like it's kind of
feel like an adventure.
Yeah, like there's once we get to the just imagine once we get to the end of this thing,
I know. I'm actually gonna use a bookmark this time. Yeah. I usually don't do that, but it's built in, so it's like I gotta use it.
But that was great.
That was great. That was.
I'm very excited. I can't wait to do another one.
I don't mean either, but we're gonna. I don't know.
We gotta wait until we're not sick anymore.
Yeah, that'll be the deadline.
To our heart's extent.
Once we're not sick, we'll do a big one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed.
Yes. I certainly did.
Yeah, I hope you weren't missing Hunter too much.
No, it's okay. You can catch him on the Analog Horror series, which also I was wondering if Sophie could make a thumbnail for.
Yeah, I can see how they're doing that. Yeah, or I can make a thumbnail. I can make thumbnails.
Oh, I'm talking about for like a logo, like how we have.
Oh, you want an actual logo for it?
Yeah, because if we were of this show, I don't want that show to not have a logo,
Right. All right. Well, you'll have to give me some more deets of what you want.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You can watch the episode.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But look forward to that. Analog Horror coming soon from Luke and Hunter.
Yep. That's the other channel too.
And look forward to more of these good stories.
And Stolen Tongues.
Yeah.
Or what gave him the idea to write The Stand.
Cool.
And there will be like really interesting, really scary, like stories and like disturbing stuff. And then there will be some, like the last one that I just read, that was about little like G.I. Joe figures coming to life and like trying to kill this like hitman dude. And like he gets trapped in like the bathroom and they like wage war with him and they're shooting like rocket launchers at him and stuff. It's
like Toy Story, like the little green army man.
Yeah, what if Toy Story was scary? That's what it was. And it was,
exactly. And that's pretty cool. Though.
It's like it was like this action thriller. He like goes out on the side of this like 40-foot building or whatever and just like is like it's so bizarre.
Honestly though, I do kind of dig that. It's like you'll never know what you're gonna get. Like every story is different.
Yeah.